That Amos wanted to have a skating.
I'm Sam. My presentation is on research methodology, development of delay. First, I looked at pioneers and inventors, types of delay, and progression of delay units and stuff like that. So the first thing I found was on Wikipedia. A guy called C. Frank Cordaro invented line delay. Line delay uses telephone lines as a storage medium. A radio station would transmit their signal through a phone line to a city hundreds of miles away, then back again, and the time it takes for it to go there and come back would be the length of the delay. But didn't really catch on, obviously, because you've got to have a phone line at hand and stuff like that. I didn't really understand how it works, but it's pretty cool. And then I found a guy called Charlie Watkins, who created the Copycat, which is apparently one of the earliest tape delay units. And then I went on to find another guy called Ray Butts, who created the Echoplex in the 1950s. And the guy that created the Copycat was in the 1950s as well. So there's a bit of debate about who did it first and stuff like that. But I thought they were both pretty important people. And then Ray Butts, after he invented the Echoplex, a few years later, he went on to build it into a guitar amp, calling it the Echosonic. So you just plug your guitar in, straight away you can go, you've got delay, ready to go and everything. And then in the 60s, a guy called Mike Battle, who was like an electronic engineer or something, stole the idea for the Echoplex, and him and Don Dixon created the Verse transistor version of a tape delay, and they called it the EP3. But then Mike Battle wasn't happy with the way it sounded, so he sold all his shares and all his interest in the company. In 1991, after a 30-year run, the Echoplex brand was dead. Then 5 years later, Gibson bought the brand and applied it to their digital delay units. This is from Wikipedia as well. And then searched around Wikipedia a bit more, found a guy called Ray Lubo, who had a brand name called Telray, and he invented the oil can delay in the 60s. Next slide, which is still pioneers and inventors. Wait, hang on. When the oil can delay, hang on, I lost the slide now. Yeah, when the oil can delay came out in the 60s, 10 years after the Echoplex, it was the main contender for the tape delay. So people are buying that instead. Then moved on to a different website, Universal Audio, found a document written by Will Shanks, and a lot of other people I found as well that I haven't put in the slide were saying Les Paul, Lester William Pulsfuss, was one of the main pioneers of delay. The use of tape delay as an effect was credited to legendary guitarist and inventor Les Paul. In the 1950s, Les Paul was the first to use tape delay on a multi-track recording. The song was How High the Moon, and it featured some woman singer. I think Tom had that, was the first 24-track recording or something. Let's play an example of that. Or was it F3? I haven't listened to this, so I don't know if you had to hear it or not. And it got to come out of the Mac speakers.
Somewhere there's music, I'll make the tune. Somewhere there's heaven, high below. There is no moon above, love is far away too.
I can't really hear any delay on there, probably it's on there somewhere, I guess. Other early examples of tape delay can be heard by artists such as Chet Atkins, Scotty Moore, Carl Perkins, and Miles Davis. They all use the Echoplex. Now moving on to the history and types of delay. I got this from a website called Effect Road. The guy wrote it called Phil Taylor. It's called History of Delay. First thing I looked at was magnetic tape recording, because before you could use tape machines to create delay, obviously you had to invent recording first, so you could record the sound onto the tape. Magnetic tape recording was invented in the 1920s by a guy called Fritz Plumer, I think you pronounce it. This led to the first use of tape machines being used to create tape delay. I found another guy called Edward Sculler, I think, who invented the first ring-shaped tape head in 1933, improving the reliability of tape machines. Before they were round, the tape heads were needle-shaped and used to rip or damage the tape. Next slide, more to the history of delay. Magnetic tape delay, I got this from Google Scholar. Utilised in the 1950s to create slapback echo effect that defined the rockabilly sound and many early rock and roll recordings. Right, how it works: the tape runs at a constant speed. The writing heads magnetise the tape with a current proportional to the signal. The result is a pattern of magnetisation that is stored along the length of the magnetic tape that can be played back later to produce the original signal. And then the oil can delay, which I mentioned earlier, invented by Ray Lubo in the 50s, was like, when it came out, as the main contender for the tape delay, as we said. I don't really understand how it works, but I'll read it out anyway. The unit housed a can that was filled with oil, which can store charge. A motor drives a rubber belt to spin the flywheel, fitted with a pickup inside the can. The oil stores the signal electrostatically, and the pickup functions as a recording head, sloshing the oil around to produce the echo. Which seemed pretty cool. I got some old school pictures. Top one's obviously tape delay, dust and oil can delay. The last slide, I got manufacturers, got this off Wiki, and a few bits from things written by Phil Taylor. At the time, there were three main manufacturers of delay units. Philips, who made the EL3503, which was a tape delay. Then Fender made the Echo Verb 3, an oil can delay. And Ray Lubo, the guy that invented oil can delay, made many different versions and sold them under his own brand name, Tel-Ray and Morley. And that is the end. By the way, I forgot to play something today. This is a guy using oil can delay on his Ry Cooder. He's using oil can delay on his tune. You can hear it. Yeah. I think you can hear the delay on that quite easily. But yeah, that's my presentation of delay.
Nice one, Sam. Right, Josh.